I want you to think about someone you know. Someone who works full-time, shows up every day, does everything right. Maybe that person is you. Now ask yourself this. Are they actually getting ahead? Or does it feel like the finish line keeps moving further away no matter how hard they work? Because right now in Australia, this is the reality. Inflation is still sitting around 4.6%. Interest rates remain high, with the RBA cash rate at 4.35%. Rent is surging. Electricity bills jumped again after rebates ended. And housing affordability is at some of the worst levels Australians have ever seen. Most people are trying to solve a 2026 problem with a 2006 strategy. And today, I want to explain why so many Australians feel financially stuck, and what the people getting ahead are doing differently. Let me introduce you to two people. This is Jack. Jack is 31. Works in project management in Sydney. Makes about $95,000 a year. 10 years ago, that would have sounded like a fantastic salary. Today, it barely feels enough. His rent increased again. Grocery prices remain high. Insurance, petrol, and utilities all cost more than they did a few years ago. And every time John looks at Sydney property prices, he quietly closes the tab. Because the numbers don't work. Then there's Emma. Same age. Similar salary. Same city. But Emma stopped thinking only like an employee and started thinking like an investor. Instead of relying on one paycheck, she focused on building assets and extra income streams. She bought an investment property interstate where yields actually made sense. She built side income online. And she positioned herself for higher interest rates instead of being crushed by them. Same economy. Completely different outcome. So what's the difference? Mindset, but also strategy. And there are 6 things happening in Australia right now that you need to understand. Number 1. Your salary is no longer enough on its own. This is the uncomfortable truth. Even when Australians receive pay rises, many are still going backwards in real terms because inflation is rising faster than wages. Housing, transport, insurance, and energy costs continue climbing. That means relying on a single income source has become risky. The people getting ahead today usually have multiple streams of income. Investments, businesses, online income, dividends, or property cash flow. Because your employer controls your salary. But assets compound independently. Number 2. The housing market has fundamentally changed. The old Australian dream was simple. Work hard, save a deposit, buy a home where you grew up. That model is breaking down. Mortgage repayments in Sydney now consume massive portions of household income, while rental vacancy rates remain extremely tight. Australia also continues to underbuild housing relative to demand, which means affordability pressure is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. So the people adapting fastest are changing how they think about property. Instead of asking, "Where do I want to live?" they ask, "Where do the numbers make sense?" That's why many younger investors are buying interstate or regional properties first, places with stronger rental yields and lower entry prices. Your first property does not need to be your dream home. It just needs to be a smart financial move. Number 3. Higher interest rates are painful, but they also create opportunity. Most people only focus on the negative side of rising rates. And yes, for borrowers, it hurts. But higher rates also create opportunity for prepared people. Savings accounts finally generate meaningful returns again. Asset prices soften. Over-leveraged investors panic. And people holding cash suddenly gain negotiating power. We've seen this happen in every major downturn. The people who survive best are usually the people with liquidity. That's why building a cash buffer right now is incredibly important. Because downturns reward preparation. Number 4. Superannuation alone is probably not enough. Australians are told their whole lives that super will take care of retirement. But most people never even check it. They don't know their fees. They don't know what they're invested in. And many don't know if they're actually on track. Super is important. But financially successful Australians usually build assets outside super as well. Shares, businesses, investment properties, and income-producing assets. Because relying entirely on one system is risky. One of the smartest things you can do today is simply log into your super account and understand where your money is going. Number 5. The cost of living crisis is not temporary. This is the part many Australians still haven't accepted. The pressure on household budgets is structural. Energy costs remain elevated. Housing shortages remain severe. Food, transport, and insurance costs are all significantly higher than they were a few years ago. And inflation is expected to remain stubborn for years, not months. So waiting for things to go back to normal is no longer a strategy. The better strategy is adapting. Building skills. Building assets. Building income streams that grow faster than inflation. Because inflation quietly destroys idle money. If your savings are sitting still, they're shrinking in real terms every year. And finally, number 6. Young Australians do not necessarily need to leave the country. But they do need to think differently. A lot of younger Australians are considering moving overseas because housing feels impossible here. And honestly, I understand why. But the people succeeding in Australia right now usually made one key shift. They stopped thinking only like workers and started thinking like owners. Owners of assets. Owners of investments. Owners of businesses. Owners of income streams. Because employees trade time for money. Investors build systems that compound over time. And the gap between those two groups grows wider every year. Look, I know this sounds intense, but I actually think this is empowering. Because once you understand the rules of the current economy, you can stop blaming yourself. A lot of Australians are not struggling because they're lazy. They're struggling because the economic environment changed, and nobody explained the new rules. So here's where I'd start. Build a cash buffer. Learn one additional income skill. Understand your super. Study investing. Think long-term. Not overnight success. Compounding. Because small smart decisions repeated consistently over years completely change financial outcomes. And if you want me to go deeper on any of these topics, side income, interstate investing, super strategies, or surviving high interest rates, let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you understand what's really happening in Australia right now, subscribe. Because the people who understand the system early usually benefit the most later. I'll see you in the next one.